宦官でも客になるのか。あれはダメだ。妓女たちが本気になり、店が潰れる。
Hi there everyone, Lars back with another anime review for the Apothecary Diaries, this time episode 7, brought to you by Camille's Harem, not just a podcast by novice writers for novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And even though the brakes were absolutely pumped once again on the main plot, I was not bored at all with this newest episode. In fact, actually, when it got to the end, I was like, wait, that's it? It felt like no time had passed at all. I was so engaged in the characters, their interactions, their relationships, the world building, and more that it was just, I need more of this show. I need more of Maomao and her incredible antics, and I need to know what is going to happen next. So, let's dive into this review and analysis for episode 7. And right off the bat, I'm going to do my best to try to get the names done better. Please excuse me, Chinese, Japanese are not exactly what my tongue is used to, so if you could give me a little bit of grace, that'd be much appreciated, or if you do want to rant on the way that I say people's names, then please hold your horses until you can say Eichhörnchen without twisting your tongue. With that being said, let's get on with this. So we basically pick up where we left off, with Maomao being forced to sleep to rest off the poison that she has ingested, and to leave her mind to wander and to think, mull over the things that we experienced in the previous episode. And thankfully, she doesn't have to stay too long with her thoughts all alone, because Gaoshen shows up bringing with him the stew, the soup that had the poison in it. He carefully unwraps it, saying, I did not touch anything. I made sure that someone else properly folded on up, or I should say I properly folded up once I had other people bring it. I did not taste any of the soup because the minister is still really reeling from the effects of this poison. Seriously, who goes back and says, I think this girl's faking it. I'm going to slurp this soup up. I guess I'm going to die now. Well, this is why we have taste testers, my dude. But that one minister's stupidity aside, Maomao and Gaoshen have a look at the evidence. Who could possibly have tried to poison Lady Lashu? Well, what we get right here, I love seeing Maomao. Sorry, there we go again. I love seeing Maomao use her intellect, really pull out all the stops for all these little tricks of the trade as an apothecary to solve the mysteries right in front of her. And yes, this is not your modern forensics where they're like, oh, clearly we can see someone's fingerprints and now we just have to match people's fingerprints to figure out who the assassin is. They don't know that kind of stuff. That's modern forensics. However, Maomao does have an understanding of silver, that it is a very corrosive metal, that it will be hastened in its corrosiveness if it interacts with human oils, which is why you have to buff and polish silver all the time. So before the bowl is buffed and polished once again, if we put some powder on over it, we can see who has been touching this bowl in certain ways. And lo and behold, 3 sets of prints showed that someone has properly been handling this bowl according to courtly etiquette, but one person did not. Very likely, the person who is the would-be assassin, the person who mixed in the poison, was touching the bowl at the rim. Now then, this could be either because they don't know anything about courtly attitude, or maybe they just didn't care because they thought that whoever was going to drink the soup was going to die anyway, so who cares if I put some of my grimy fingers there at the edge. However, it does suggest that whoever did do this could very likely not come from the palace, from any part of the palace, whether it be the rear palace or the rest of the palace complex, which opens up all kinds of possibilities. What if our potential killers, our potential assassins, are enemies of the emperor who have snuck into the palace? Well, what would we do against that? How would we even be able to figure this out? This will lead Maomao to go on a brilliant excursion that will take up the rest of the episode, but I think it's really important to stop here for a quick moment and analyze the rest of the conversation that she has with Gaoshen. Maomao and this head eunuch begin talking about the attitudes of the women at the garden party. This is incredibly important right here. And again, this highlights something that I've really praised for this series, about how this is a story with really strong female characters, how it is about women claiming their identity, their independence, and their autonomy, their self-worth through their actions within a very difficult situation for themselves. And I need to address some of the comments that people have put into some of the videos. They're like, Lars, you just don't understand. This is just the way that things go. These women actually have it really well. They're getting paid to be in the rear palace. And look, I actually do understand. I do actually get. In fact, this episode highlights the differences between what women can expect out on the streets, especially in the red light district, as opposed to being in the Emperor's Palace complex, in the rear palace, where they can serve as handmaidens, servants, concubines, ladies in waiting, where they get a stipend for their work, they're fed, they're relatively protected. So it seems like it's a really good deal. Except, as Maomao points out, their lives are basically worthless. Why? Because they are the property of the emperor. Even the favorite concubines are not immune to abuse, to ridicule, to manipulation. And if so, that means that their ladies in waiting and their servants, who are again just basically property, are worth even less. Even a valuable food tester can just be thrown out on a whim or die to poison. She will be buried, will be replaced, and life will go on. So for the women in the rear palace, they resort to these games, to manipulation, to social posturing. Why? To assert their identity, to assert a modicum of independence, of autonomy, and to claim a noble identity within a pretty rough situation. It doesn't matter if you have a roof over your head and food and money, you can still have a pretty difficult life and you can still be demeaned, which is at the core of the conversation between Maomao and Gaoshen. And it's really neat how Maomao has been able to pick up on all of these various social cues to point out that, yeah, Lady Lu Shu was basically being dissed by her ladies in waiting. This is a huge broach of propriety, and it really goes to show that Lady Lu Shu is in a very difficult place, not just because she was the concubine / wife of the previous emperor, but now she's been handed on over to the son of the previous emperor, and she's still a very young teenager, going through all the things that a young teenager would. This is really rough for her. And then for these older women to belittle her, to demean her in the way that they did, make her stand out, seem like she couldn't read the atmosphere of the party, and just look too flashy and set up a very antagonistic relationship with the other concubines. This is rough. And yet, as Maomao understands, these women, sure, it's mean-spirited, it's awful, it's not okay what they're doing. But in a way, it makes sense because, well, these women, these beautiful women, are property and playing second fiddle to a girl, and to a girl who doesn't appreciate, at least in their eyes, her privileged position as one of the 4 favorite concubines to the emperor. And so for both the audience and for Gaoshen, this illuminates the very difficult situation that the women in the rear palace find themselves in. And it goes to show that in this world of politics and beauty, where poison might be slipped into silver bowls, there is way more going on, and the dangers to Maomao and to others are numerous, and that a single wrong step on anyone's part could put anyone into a very precarious situation, where even the most beautiful of handmaidens, closely connected to a favorite of the emperor, could find her neck on the chopping block, and even one of the concubines could find herself in a very difficult situation with the emperor, could be cast out, could be married off, could be executed. How much more than so for a simple servant girl and taste tester or poison tester like Maomao, which Gaoshen, even though he is one of the head eunuchs for the rear palace, this illuminates him to all of the potential dangers that these ladies face and understanding the difficulties of their situation, which is good because this actually makes him a very powerful ally to Maomao, which that is something that she needs. She needs good allies, and that's where the second half of this episode really comes in, where we get to see Maomao manipulating one of her new alliances. So back at the garden party, she received 4 pieces of jewelry, 4 different people laying claim to potential alliances with Maomao, which comes in clutch here because now that she's learned that potentially people from outside of the palace could be coming on in, could be causing a stir, could be causing problems, and she herself wants to escape from this stuffy, over-politicized, over-socialized hellhole. Oh, here comes her savior in the form of Xiaolin, who tells her, guess what? If you have a guy vouch for you, you can leave. You just needed to get the right kind of hairpin. She's like, well, I've got 2 hairpins from 2 different men. I could go for Jinji, or I can go for this young officer. You know what? Jinji still kind of creeps me out, so I'm going to manipulate this young officer, which she does phenomenally by bribing him with access to 3 of the hottest prostitutes in the red light district. I loved this moment right here because weirdly enough, this guy was just looking for alliances. He was looking for any kind of girl that he could connect with, and he only ended up giving away 1 hairpin, and it was to the girl who creeped him out because she went into ecstasy when tasting the poison at the dinner. So he doesn't really want anything to do with Maomao, but the moment she's like, I can get you in with these prostitutes, and he's like, I would have to save up an entire year's worth of my salary as an up-and-coming officer directly in the palace. I'm in a very privileged position. I can't even afford these women. And you're telling me you can get me in with them? Oh, thank you, little girl. That just made me laugh so hard. What also just made me bust a gut laughing is when he actually does take her to the red light district and she gets to meet the madam of the house, and what happens? She socks her super hard in the gut, forcing her to vomit up everything, and you find out this was just the regular greeting because the woman of the house always knew that Maomao was ingesting some kind of poison, and to keep this lovely girl alive, she would expunge all of the venom and poisons and toxins from her body with an almighty sock to the gut. I really like this old lady. and on the subject of Maomao just being a beauty, can I just say real quick right here that I love that Maomao went back to wearing her freckles because she just looks cute this way. Also, it's again a representation of the main female character claiming her identity, her autonomy, her independence, even just through simple cosmetics, because that is something that she can control. She feels comfortable that way. She feels powerful that way. And that's something really cool where she takes something that people think is ugly and wears it with pride because that is her, and she knows that that's something that she can use against others. Boom! That's power right there. That's a subtle aspect of writing a strong female character that I think that Hollywood especially has forgotten. That it's not about the muscles and the ability to sock a guy through a wall. While that is cool, that only belongs within certain stories. Instead, characters can really show their strength through their sense of independence and their identity and their ownership of things that other people might consider, well, less than savory. And that's a really nuanced take on a character. So again, brilliant job with Maomao. Well, coming back to the story, Maomao makes sure that the officer goes in for his lovely time with the ladies, and the woman of the house just like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to stop these ladies. She's like, I'm putting this on your tab, you know, and she's like, that's like a lifetime's worth of earnings, to which then we then get some really interesting politicking once again happening right here. Or should I say business. The woman of the house is willing to form this very lucrative trade transaction with Maomao to give Maomao another base of operations outside of the rear palace, even though she is property to the emperor at this point, in exchange for bringing high clientele to the red light district where they will spend big money on her girls. And yeah, so business as per usual. So Maomao gets what she wants. The woman of the house gets what she wants. Hopefully, hopefully that young man is ready for what's about to happen to him there in the red light district, but we will save that for the rated X version of the Apothecary Diaries. Maomao goes back though to her house, and this is where we get that very important contrast of seeing the world that she had stepped out of, where we see the people suffering from syphilis, from poverty, from hunger. While everything looks really beautiful in the daylight, the moment that you step into the alleys, into the places behind the fancy houses, you see the world which she comes from. But the interesting thing is that she feels at home here. This is what she grew up in. This is what she knows. And these are the people that she really does care about, the people that she has long-standing relationships with, such as her father. And on the topic of her father, it is really interesting that when she returns home, he's not like, "Oh, my child, where have you been?" He doesn't grab her, bring her into an embrace and cry tears of relief. He calmly does his job, listens to her as she talks about all of her adventures, and eventually passes out on the rough wooden floor, covers her in a raggedy blanket. She sleeps peacefully, and then he's like, "The rear palace. Well, isn't that a twist of fate?" Now then, since my last review and analysis for the Apothecary Diaries, Scott of Camille's Harem, one of my fellow members here on YouTube, has spoiled me a little bit about some of the things within the manga. So I do know some of the stuff that's happening right here, but I shall speak as an anime only, and just say that it's really interesting seeing how the father's reacting right here. Weaves are all coming together to make this crazy tapestry of intrigue. That now we have people from outside of the palace coming on in. The world of the Apothecary Diaries is expanding. Transactions are being made. Allies are being made. Business is being had, connecting this darker world that Maomao comes from with the glittering rear palace, which is also full of its own interesting darkness. And the schemes are still unfolding. We don't know who the assassins are. We don't really know what their purpose is. We are just getting small clues here and there. And honestly, this is actually really good for the story. Like I said, I don't feel like any time was wasted. In fact, I just want more of this right here because the comedy is really carrying the show through. Maomao is a fantastic lead. The conversations are wonderful. The characterization is dynamic for each and every single character. And we are slowly being teased clue for clue what is happening right here. Way too many authors try to just divulge everything as fast as they can to you, so that way they can get on to the more exciting bits. But really what makes those bits exciting is the work that we go through to get to them. It's like writing action-packed stories. A story that has tons of action actually has to pace it out carefully to make sure that it never exhausts its audience, because you can have too much of a good thing. And the same thing goes for the drama. The drama can just become so weighty that it drags you down. The drama of Apothecary Diaries is punctuated with moments of humor, of levity, of intrigue, of adventure, and just wholesome interactions between characters, which then means that when we get those serious moments of drama and those serious conversations and those reveals of dark clues for what's happening, they hit with significant weight because we haven't been bowed down the entire time with weighty drama. For whatever genre you write for, you need to make sure that you don't just stick with one note the whole time, because that does get boring and overbearing. You need to mix it up with strong characterization, with mixes of action, humor, romance, drama, despair, horror, which again only sometimes need to come in small dosages, and those small dosages can go really far. And that's what we like to see. That's what keeps us engaged. That's not just monotone the entire time, but that things are shaken up. It brings life to the world, so that way you can see all of these different places within the Apothecary Diaries, and each place, from the red light district to the rear palace to the alleyways to the apothecary home, each one has its own unique flavor because of the dialogue, the humor, the drama, not just the coloring and the shades and the mere fact that this is either like a really horrible situation or a very beautiful situation or a very tense situation, but that these situations, these environments, these characters are punctuated by actual emotions, by an actual range of feelings and of interactions. That is complex writing, but that's the kind of stuff that we look for. And basically, that's what we enjoy in our everyday life. We have a variety. We have a wide spectrum of flavors and interactions to everything that we experience. and the Apothecary Diaries does an excellent job of capturing all of those nuances. So, yet again, I'm just left in awe of a fantastic series and all of the stuff that's happening right here. Again, not a whole lot of massive plot development, but nonetheless a very important installment in any case, as we can see that things are being set up, characters are beginning to come to the forefront, nothing is forgotten, the world is expanding, and as it is, the plot is slowly growing and unraveling before our eyes, leaving us with tantalizing clues, as we get to enjoy more with this fantastic cast of characters led by Maomao, and that again the themes of female empowerment that are done really well throughout this series is again held to, and not in a way that's just beating you over the head saying women are awesome, but rather treating all of these women as actual individuals who have worth, who have a brain in their head, use said brain, and have real personalities to go through with it. They're not one-dimensional. Even though these are 2D characters, they are 3-dimensional in all of their complexity, which is what you want, not just for your female characters, but really for all of your characters. And I think that's one of the reasons why I just enjoy coming back to this series so much, is because I am so engaged with these characters, their story, and their world. So, I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. How did I do with the names this time? Yeah, I know. Once again, remember, you can't really say too much until you can tell me Eichhörnchen without twisting your tongue. Believe you me, it's way harder than you think. And so, with that being said, if you'd like to support what we do here at Camille's Harem, please check out the books that we've published. That would help us out so much. We're also getting very close to reaching our goal of 5,000 subscribers this year. Please help us reach that holy trifecta of 5 years, 500 videos, 5,000 subscribers. With you, we can make it possible. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.